Start. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so welcome everyone. So this video will just be about explaining for tips on how to write your engineering notebook, especially in preparation for next week's FTC tournament. And this is going to be mainly focused on things you can do in a week. So listen up. Just before we begin, you should know that writing an engineering notebook is one of the most important parts of being on an FTC team, and it will require some time and effort. But if you put in that time and effort, then you will get an amazing notebook at the end. Okay, so we will begin with the summary page.
Introduce yourself?
Sorry?
You want to introduce yourself or no?
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm Guy. I used to be on the Fix-It team. And
Alec.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
I'm not really sure how we're doing this.
I also used to be on the Fix-It team.
I'm Helen. I also used to be on the Fix-It team.
I'm Isla. I'm currently on the Fix-It team.
Okay, great.
And you used to be on too.
We can move on to the first section, which I'll be talking about the summary page. So the summary page is the page that you put in the front of your engineering notebook, and it's going to be one of the first things that judges will see when they open it up. So that makes it kind of important. It has to be one page, and its main purpose is that it gives the judges a sense of your team, what your team is like, what your team does usually, how the dynamic, that sort of thing. So usually, like we do it by just including a small description of our team. Say we travel a lot, so we'll include a description of our travels, that sort of thing, just to give the judges a sense of who you are. Perhaps the more important part of the summary page is to actually direct the judges to what you want them to look at. This is basically, you just want to describe highlights of the year, just anything cool or interesting or something that sets you apart from the rest of the teams. You want to put that on the summary page. Also, it's a good idea to have 6 to 8 specific pages mentioned on your summary page. Basically, pages that you want in your engineering notebook that you want the judges to look at more carefully, and these are going to be the pages that you think really represent the best of your season, of your year. And so, just to mention again, this should be about 6 to 8. Not more, not less. It's 6 to 8 is really the optimal zone. Okay, so next up, Alec will talk about the team section and what you can do about that.
All right. So another important but often overlooked section of the engineering notebook is the team section. So this is really a good chance for your team to describe what makes you unique, get some of your team spirit in your notebook, and just make it a lot more interesting. So the team the team section should convey your team identity. So this should include a short biography of every team member, as well as some information on your school and team history. This should go at the front of your engineering notebook before the engineering entries. And another thing is, if you want to, this is where you could also include a short summary of your completed robot, as opposed to the engineering section where you just talk about what you're working on. So this gives a sense of what your team is like and what you individually have accomplished throughout the season.
All right, so now I'm going to talk a bit about just overall formatting of your engineering notebook. You want your engineering notebook to look neat and tidy, and you want it to be easy to read, because that's what the judges are mainly going to be judging you on. So to do this, one of the best things to have is have divider tabs for your different sections. So have a separate tab for outreach, business plan, team profiles, and your actually engineering section, as well as provide a table of contents for your notebook. Have one ideally at the very beginning, but also have one for each section so that it's really easy to tell. And with that, make sure you use page numbers. Those are really important because, table of contents isn't very useful without page numbers. And something you can do that we've done is for different sections, use different sets of page numbers. So you can use maybe alphabet for one section, numbers for another, just to differentiate them so it's easy. Along with also keeping it easy to read, use headings. Make it very clear what each page is about. Your notebook is not a mystery novel, so you want to make it very clear. As well as you want to try and keep the format of your notebook consistent, so use the same type of font for your headings, keep the headings in the same location on the page, because that just makes it easier to identify for judges, as well as it just makes your notebook look cleaner and more aesthetically pleasing. As well as if you have diagrams, pictures in your notebook, you want to label those as well and have a table of contents for them at the beginning of your section as well. Really, in short, you just want to make it as easy as possible for a judge to look through your notebook and find what they're looking for.
All right. And now to move on to some other tips and little things you can do to make your notebook a little bit easier. First off, it's important to remember there's no one way to do an engineering notebook. It will always look a little bit different, but there are criteria you have to have in order to be eligible for awards. And okay, so first off, your engineering notebook should be in a binder or a notebook. It can be typed up, but it has to be printed for the competition. This is something you'll see written everywhere. Remember to put your team number on the outside of your binder or your notebook. It can have your name and your logo. Do it fun, make it memorable, but the number is the important part, and that is actually one of the criteria. We like to sign the bottom of all our engineering entry pages so that we know that we've seen them and read them over. So we'll have a little section for written by and reviewed by, where we just sign to say that we've read that page, and it helps us keep track of what we have seen, what we haven't seen, and if someone's missed a section of the engineering notebook. It's not required, but it's a nice way to make sure that everyone's seen everything. Another fun thing that we like to do with our engineering notebooks is we add a reflection at the top of the page. So this can be a fun way to add some personality to your engineering notebook. We like to make ours funny, but again, reflective of what we did that day. So sometimes more serious, sometimes more funny. We've had judges who read through and really like to read the reflections, and they often laugh at them. So that's always fun. So the engineering entries are there to help you know what you've missed and to keep a document of what your team has done. So remember to read over the entries from the days that you weren't there. If you've missed a couple of days, go look at what the people wrote in the engineering notebook, whether it's online or printed out. It will help you understand why the robot is the way it is, and if there were any lessons the team learned that you should maybe understand before you start working on the robot. We have a really fun story where a mechanism was changed, and we came and we read the engineering notebook entry and we understood why the mechanism had been changed, because it wouldn't have made sense otherwise. Moving out of the engineering entries section, you don't have to have a full business section, but having a page that lists your income and your expenses. So income may be things like if you have sponsorships, if you did fundraisers, they love to see things like this. And expenses may be things like registration fees or travel costs if you're a traveling team. It's not mandatory, but it does qualify you for some awards. And having a page on sponsors with their logos or just a short page that lists who your sponsors are, if you have any, is a really nice thing. To reiterate something, tagging 6 to 8 pages you really want the judges to see. Make them some of your more interesting pages. If you have one where you learned a really big lesson, if you have one that has a lot of CAD on it, if you have one that you think the judges would really want to see, make sure that those are the ones that you tag. A reminder, the engineering notebook is major criteria for all judged awards. If you read over the award criteria, you'll see a little bit more about what they're looking for, but having an engineering notebook is part of the criteria for all awards. And finally, make your engineering notebook fun. It isn't very interesting by itself usually, so make it colorful, show your team's personality, add memorable things. You can add logos, photos. If you do CAD, add fun reflections. Just do something to make it memorable for when the judges are reading it. Don't make it just another engineering notebook. Make it reflect your team's personality. And with that, I believe we segue into awards and judging.
Yeah, okay. So this technically isn't engineering notebook, but it's still very important, so we'll include it here anyway. Okay, so to begin with, if you're trying to win a specific award or just any award in general, make sure that you carefully read through the award criteria. We have a link at the bottom of the handout that's linked in the video description. And so and that includes all the criteria you need for the awards, and make sure you read through it carefully, because even little details, they're not as important as the overall idea of the award, but they can still make the difference between getting it and not getting it. Okay, so in addition to that, one criterion for every award that's present is that your team is respectful and shows gracious professionalism throughout the competition. So in addition just to making sure that you do that, make sure all of your team knows what gracious professionalism is and has a really good idea of it. It'll come in handy for judging interviews. Also, of course, practicing your interview in advance. Don't just go in there and have an idea of what you want to say, but never having practiced it before. The judges will be able to tell, and the presentation won't look as nice. And along that vein, demoing your robot for the judges will make the judges much more interested and your demo much more impressive. Instead of just explaining what the robot does, actually show the robot doing it. The judges will be able to understand it a lot better, and it just looks really cool because it's a robot. Okay, so I think that's the end of our tips. Does anyone have anything else to add?
We have some resources at the end of the document. So if you check out the engineering notebook handout document, it's in the description of our video here. So click on that, and right at the bottom, you'll find some other resources. If there's anybody who isn't just us watching this video, please leave a comment and we can answer any questions right now. If there isn't, you can leave a comment and we'll be sure to check the comments in the next few days and respond to them as quickly as we can.
You can also send a question to our Gmail account.
Yep.
So
things like your engineering notebook and your judging interview, think of them more like what they would be professionally. Make your team look professional. It is in effect a small business as much as it is fun. So yeah.
with
Okay.
that,
Well,
sorry.
We finished or no?
Okay, so I think that concludes the video. Thank you for watching.
yeah, thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good luck, teams.